Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my NieR hard video walkthrough. This is chapter 3, it is called Adam and Eve. So, we're once again rushing back into the city ruins. I'm going to be killing a couple of the enemies on my way. I recommend you do the same, because it's a nice bit of experience, you might get a good drop, and it's going to get you better at the combat. I haven't really spoken too much about the combat, but I should. The combat in this game is really fun, and really fun to watch too, but it's not that demanding, which makes it kind of an interesting balance. The real areas where the diversity of the combat comes from is all the chips that you can add onto it to make it slightly iteratively different. Right there, guys, if you do jump and square quickly, you will do a launch attack which gives you more height than a standard jump, and then a double jump will get you up nearly any surface in the game. A combination of the two, and all the fancy aerial moves, can help you get to places that the game didn't think you'd get to so soon, so use it to your advantage. But the combat, it is a mixture of square and triangle to go between light and heavy attacks, and then you have the option to change weapons, and you have a whole host of different weapons. The weapons themselves have preset combos when you do their standard hit strings, and then they have a couple of modifiers when you jump. When you jump, press dash and then attack at the same time, and when you do backdash into attacks, backdash into attacks. It's generally two separate hit strings that you can combine together, and then the mixture of the two when you do square triangle. But there only seems to be one preset square triangle for the most of the weapons. You might get slightly different looking ones if you incorporate the dodge attacks into them and things, but for the most you have two base combos that increase when you use upgrades on your weapons. You get more hits in each string as you upgrade them, and they get fancier and more interesting to watch. But that's kind of it. This is not a game where you're going to be buying stingers, or going to be buying all kinds of weird special 360 moves, or anything like that. There are a couple of commands. For instance, you can buy a parry, which will enable you to block enemies and then do a really nice reprisal. You can buy a charge attack, which enables you to charge a big hit. Things like that, but you're not going to be getting any kind of extreme input-heavy moves, and I think that's a bit of a shame for me personally, because I love modifiers. I think the combat of this game is just the tip of the iceberg of what it could be. And I don't want people to confuse this point, guys. The combat's fine. It functions, it's fun. There's a couple of precision points to it which I think need to be refined, but aside from those, you're going to have a lot of fun with it. And when you include the gun and the pod programs that you can do as well, you can have a whole host of interesting things happening, and the combat at times looks really beautiful, so you can have tons of fun with it. It's kind of simple too. You know, that doesn't mean you can't do incredible fancy things. There's already some really fun videos of people juggling and launching, keeping them in a launch, doing combos and swapping weapons and doing all that kind of fun stuff. But it's not gonna take you too long to get to that point when you're trying to do that explicitly. Because the execution in the game is kind of low. The timing is there, but the execution isn't. And I kind of like a marriage of both. Because when I watch a combo, I don't want to be able to do it immediately. I want to have to sit down and really practice it. It comes from my enjoyment of one-frame links in Street Fighter, or King of Fighters combos, where the execution's very tight. You have to be on the ball, or you just don't get it. And I like the fact you have to practice. Whereas in this game, I mean, you still do, in theory, to do some of the more tricky and technical combos, but at the moment, the meta for the game is still at a very achievable level, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, it's just the depth to me seems kind of shallow at the moment. It looks great, but it's far too easy to do, and I don't want to, offend anybody who, took ages screaming out fantastic looking combos who thinks that they are tricky to do, because they probably are, but in the grand scheme of things, you don't have to learn the systems, you don't have to learn incredible timings, and you don't have to do, picture perfect, precise inputs to do any of it, because it's also accessible. It's probably the best way of saying it. I personally would have just enjoyed if the game had had more inputs, because to me that's where the real depth comes from, and I have no doubt that there will be more discoveries made of awesome tech that makes it way more technical and way more interesting to me. And I can't wait for that. But at the moment, there is just this overwhelming sense of simplicity to me, which is great for new players, but I get the feeling that a lot of experienced players are going to get bored quite quickly and move on. I came down here early because I thought I could open this door, and I forgot that you had to hack it with 9S. Behind that door is one of those special weapons, one of those legendary weapons that Masamune talks about, but it is for 9S pretty much, and it's not the best version. It's called, I think, is it the Cruel Blood, Cruel Lament or something? It's a black version of the white sword that I'm using right now. I'm using the Virtuous Treaty, or Virtuous something, the small white sword. They're both very comparable statistically, but one of them gives you a passive bonus for being low life, the other one gives you a passive bonus for being high life. I'm going to be playing the most of this game on very hard. I never see low life because I die, so there's no point in that sword's ability. It's kind of super pointless, unless you do some kind of setup, some kind of preparation to get into low life to make it functional. And it would have to give you a way better bonus than being full life, because the white sword gives you a blessing which increases damage when you're full life, so it's that weird kind of trade-off between the two. And it's called something, I can't remember the white one, but the dark one is called Dark Impulse, because it always reminds me of Bahamut from Final Fantasy X. I haven't checked either of them. Oh, by the way guys, that's some memory alloy early on if you're interested in getting some resources and you need them. I think it's only 2, but it's still a lot early on, because you don't find that resource at all unless you're very lucky. So that journey just then was kind of pointless, but it shows you one of the many crevices that NieR has to offer. This game is full of secrets, it's full of areas that you don't even really have to see or go to have success, so it's definitely worth looking into. But we were speaking of the combat before I got into that weapon topic. To put a bow on that weapon, it's only the bigger version of the sword, so it's not the sword I'm actually using, it's the bigger variant. And I think the white one is better than the black one because it gives you damage bonus at full life rather than when you're dying. And if you're playing on hard mode, when you get hit, a lot of the times it puts you down to, you know, the final 10% of your life. So it might be good in that variety, but we won't be playing on that difficulty much, so that shouldn't be really a case for us. But the combat, you're watching me partake in it, you're watching me and seeing me doing things. At the moment, I have sword and bare hands. That's my weapon selection. I'm not going to have a second weapon for a while. It's not because I don't think they're interesting or fun. It's just that I was going through the game quite quickly and I kept forgetting to go and find the weapons. So you can buy weapons from vendors, you can achieve them from side quests, and then you can find them in the world, in chests and in special areas where swords are stabbed in the ground. A good tip to have at the beginning of this game, if you're wanting to, you know, get the most out of your equipment and your gear, is at the very beginning, if you go on that highway back towards the factory, it's the north of the city ruins, you can go all the way to where you fought those 2 Goliath saw blades, and there will be your body from that encounter in the prologue, and there will be the sword, the big virtuous great sword that we used in that prologue. You can pick up the sword and get it for free, and you can pick up your body and pick up every single item you had when you were doing the prologue. So it can give you a nice bonus at the beginning of the game if you want it. I didn't choose to do it because I just want to keep pushing forward and do the game, and that's what you're going to be seeing here. The combat itself, I mentioned both the square triangle modifiers. Well, you also have the evade. The evade is mapped to the right trigger. Once again, I wish it wasn't, and I know you can probably change that, but I've got the muscle memory now, because I don't think the trigger on the PlayStation 4 is very fun to press. It's not a button that you can comfortably press repeatedly without feeling like you're actively pressing a button. And to me, a dodge should feel natural, it shouldn't feel like, oh my god, this stupid button annoys me. And that's how I feel about that trigger. If they'd have put it on, for instance, L1 maybe, I would have felt a lot better about it, even though just because the button's better. You know, if it was a PS2 controller, I would have no problems at all, because R2 on PS2 is a fantastic button. It works. It doesn't take 20 minutes to sink in. You know, you don't have to grip it like a gorilla, and all the other nonsense that the trigger, this fascination with triggers that we have right now has given us. Because if you think about it, oh, by the way, that is a pod. I just showed you how to get the second pod of the game. This is an automatically locking missile pod, and on hard and very hard, you do not have lock on. On normal, you do. So this is actually pretty useful for people who don't want to aim the gun, because it'll give you damage over time, which is really good, and you don't have to do anything other than hold a button. So it's really, really good for those people who want to get in there, do the crazy combat, do the juggles, but don't want to worry about aiming or shooting. But anyhow, yeah. I don't understand why we were fascinated with triggers. I understood it for first-person shooters, but even then, I still prefer GoldenEye's formation. The N64 had a Z trigger. It didn't have any kind of, pressure sensitivity. It didn't have multiple inputs on the trigger. There wasn't, the feeling of pressing and the feeling of clicking. There was just click of a button. It was fast, it was responsive, it was everything you needed from a trigger. And now we've got into this whole depressing fetish of having all this extra feedback for it and needing trigger guards and trigger locks because there's so much fucking time between neutral and activation that time can end up affecting gameplay, so that they've had to remove it and make custom controllers to make it shorter. Why not just make it a button again? Remember those? They were great. And I appreciate, right, if you're playing a racing game or if you're playing a first-person shooter, that there is probably more of a benefit to it because it gives you that feeling of maybe pulling a trigger. It gives you the immersion. It gives you that control over your acceleration in a racing game and your brake, and enables you to feather and things and have a better idea of your relationship with the road. Insert whatever contrived bullshit reason you want. I can get it, but I don't like it. And I'm all about response, precision, and getting what I want in video games. And I don't mean that as like a selfish instant gratification child of, I want her to wear, get her tits out. I don't mean it like that. I just mean it in, when I press a button, I want to see the action. Like, that's kind of what it's all about, right? So when it comes to triggers, just imagine how much better and how much more responsive you would be if there wasn't that delay from when you start pressing it to when it activates. And you might be thinking, well, it's only a couple of milliseconds, but it's still enough, it's still delay. That's not talking about the delay it takes from your controller to go to your system and the delay it takes to go to your system through your TV and show you the response. Because delay exists everywhere, and reducing that delay is obviously a good thing. Getting a TV with lacking input delay is great. The lowest delay possible is what you want. Using a wired controller to get rid of that minimal wireless delay. You can do all of these things to give you a more streamlined and more precise experience, and then you're pressing a trigger that's fucking floppy penis in your hand and doesn't do what I want it to do. Whereas you touch a face button on a PlayStation controller, instant, beautiful feeling, wonderful design. But those triggers, man, those triggers. But combat. Dodge is on R2, and the dodge in this game is kind of interesting. You can control it, you can guide the dodge, and you can do kind of zigzags while you're dodging. You can wear chips to give you a bigger dodge, a longer dodge. You can also spam it and just repeatedly keep thrusting forward crazily like Sonic on speed and have almost complete immunity. These are the crazy suicide bomber robots. I don't have to tell you that these are dangerous. One-touch kills happen a lot in the desert because the desert is a higher level than us, so we have to be quite careful. Something else I should mention here too. I think this is my odyssey to get my body back after I died by those suicide bombers, so don't do what I did. You don't have to do what I'm doing here, guys. I'm running around the desert because I know you can pick up items that can lead to gold. If you find ancient masks, if you find tech manuals and thick dictionaries and things like that, all of those things can be sold for currency, and I'm hoping to get lucky. That's all I'm doing here. If you want to get immediately to the story at this moment, when you entered this area, go to the right and just keep going that direction. Keep going to your east from where you entered, and you will cue a cutscene. There's an opening in the wall in like the mountainside, and it will show you a dude you have to fight, and then you can get on with the game. All of those mission objectives on the maps are simply ruses to get you exploring the desert. You don't have to do it. But back to the dodge. If you press dodge when you are in proximity of an attack, there will be a fancy animation that plays where 2B will break up into kind of a phantom version of herself, and then depending on what button you press after that will depend on how you counterattack. If you press square, she will launch into the sky and bring enemies with her if they're close enough to her. If you press triangle, she will do a context-sensitive attack on what that weapon you're using is. It differs between the weapons. It's generally one heavy-hitting strike of whatever weapon you choose. And then if you press the gun, if you press to shoot, she will do a backflip that is followed by a gunshot. That was unfortunate, look at that. But you can see right now, so if you want to use that sword I mentioned that has Dark Impulse, you have to play the game with it looking like this. Can you imagine playing the game with it looking like this? I can't, because it irks me to no end. I hate this visual design. I have no idea why this game is obsessed with this monochrome palette when the game itself is lacking colour at the best of times. This is a very stylized game with a very specific colour scheme, and it looks quite striking and beautiful at times because of that colour scheme, but it never looks beautiful when you turn it into that. It just looks like shit, and it's really sad. But that's the cutscene. It puts us back in control. We're going to be hitting a save point shortly, and I recommend you save at every single save point you see, because if you don't, you're going to be running back across the entire city, which is boring as shit. But that's the perfect dodge. The perfect dodge in this game is good. It's also bad. You need to be aware of its limitations or you're going to get stung. Another one of the downsides of poor design, basically. So, when you attack certain enemies, the perfect reprisal when you press square or triangle can miss. Don't ask me why. I don't know why a perfectly timed counterattack would miss. You would think the one thing it would do is guaranteed damage. It's kind of what it does in a lot of games, but not in this. So not only can you miss, but you can also take damage while you're doing it. I have no idea why you're not invincible. It makes no sense to me. But the amount of times I've been killed by active attacks while in those counter animations is too damn high. You need to be aware of this. The triangle counter command, depending on the weapon, is uncancelable. So if you do a parry and you press triangle and you do your fancy reprisal, if it misses, which it can do, the enemy that you got the parry off of or the dodge off of to get that perfect counter attack will then start attacking you while you're trapped in an animation that you cannot escape and you will die. That sentence shouldn't exist, but it does, and it happens a lot. And you have no control over it. The game auto-locks with a soft lock you don't control. The parry soft locks, you don't control it. If it misses, you don't control it. You then can't cancel to get control, so the game takes complete control away from you and will kill you if it chooses to. You know those combo videos that exist at the moment that show you those really wonderful fancy techniques of juggling and keeping them in the air and then jumping towards them, using an ability, using a skill, and then swapping weapons and doing a different combo and then finishing and ending, and it looks really nice? You'll never see that in the game. Do you know why? Because you rarely fight 1 to 2 people. You will see people doing that in the debug room, because the debug room lets you pick one dude and fight him, and that's where the game really excels. One-on-one with an enemy that can be launched effectively, consistently, and doesn't have any kind of bullshit armor properties. That's where the game shines at its finest. But the game is never like that. So watch right now, we're going to go into this central area, and we're going to get ambushed by 20 dudes. If you try doing fancy crazy combos on all these people, there's a chance that you're going to land in an active move and instantly die. Or you're going to trade with one of those riposts and instantly die. Or fuck up a dodge, and then that's on you. But it's just this weird thing of, you try to be fancy, you try to have fun, you try to do good things, and it bites you because the game just wasn't designed good enough when it comes to the most precise actions of it. On the surface, it seems perfectly capable, perfectly acceptable, but when you dig deeper, that's when you start to see the holes, and they are glaring in this game. They are so glaring, it's kind of painful. But right there, we leveled up, and it gave me a full heal, so we can once again see the game in colour with the correct audio, which is nice, because I like the soundtrack, and I like the audio, and I like the colour. But here is one of the bigger enemies, who needs to be respected. So this guy right now will kill you in one hit. Whatever he does will be a one-shot. He has a ground shockwave, he has the ability to fire a streak of flames from his fist, and he has multi-hitting moves. The way I like to fight him is I bait an attack, and then I counter it. Do not counter the spinning arm one, because he can recover instantly and do a second spinning arm move. I got really lucky then. That is the ground shockwave, counter that. There is the one that you can sometimes do, the weird spin. The reason he's doing this, if you're wondering, is because of 9S. 9S is at his ankles, and he's confusing the AI right now. 9S is not even attacking, by the way. He's just pretending to do things. If you want to fix that, put him on aggressive. But be careful. If you put him on aggressive, he will attack people in villages, and that can lead to really bad situations. That move just then, the twirly fist into extendo punch, that's the move you want to counter because it gives you the most recovery, and he's stuck in it for the full duration, so you can do some serious damage. But he's a little bit higher level than us, so it's going to... say a little bit. He's level 20. Or is it 12? It's 12, sorry. So he's got 5 levels on us. 5 levels means everything. That's why we're not doing a lot of damage. That is a big lingering hurt box, and then a big slam at the end. Go in after it, punish it with the physical attacks, get out. You can stay close to this boss if you want to, and do perfect dodges of his hits, but once again guys, the hitboxes in this game are not to be trusted, and the dodge timings are not as honest as they should be. You will get dodges perfectly off of hits that are nowhere near you, and you will get no dodge off a hit that's really close to you that was perfectly timed. There is all kinds of just inconsistencies with the game, and it's frustrating because the difficulty doesn't afford any error, really. At the moment it does because we're only on hard, but as I've mentioned, it's only the beginning of the game. As things start to level, and they will, that's when everything becomes a one-shot. Right now, we can survive a hit, and it feels like the difficulty was designed. Once it gets to past the Adam and Eve fight, everything kills you instantly.
It's like they were gathered here.
But pick up some of the items, keep on exploring, keep pushing forward, and we're about to fight a boss and a gauntlet fight. But I want to try and finish up the topic on the combat. So, the combat has all those things I've offered. You can do the dodge, you can do the parries, you can do the modifiers, you can swap between weapons, you can use your gun, you can use the different pod programs. The reason that this guide is going to be focusing on Shockwave is because it enables us to do full combos at max distance. The one thing that I'm going to come back to repeatedly when I speak of NieR is how everything seems to hit you when it doesn't hit you. So being close to enemies can be very dangerous unless you know what you're doing and you understand how the game works. Being at a distance gives you maximum benefit because you're not in the pocket, you're not in any danger. You can set your companion to super aggressive so he's always in the pocket, and you can do full combos from a distance like Bayonetta with the double guns and do good damage. And it enables you to attack aggressively while being safe and while being able to space a lot of the problems. And that's exactly how this walkthrough is going to push forward, because you do not need incredible timing or incredible skill to stay at a distance, dodge away from enemies, and then do combos. When you start getting close to them, dodge away again, and repeat until they've died. The whole point of this walkthrough, folks, is to get you through the game with as little hassle as possible. I don't want you to have to put 50 hours in to understand how to dodge everything perfectly. That's not what this is here to teach. If you can do that, that'll be wonderful, because you'll have a much better understanding of the game, and you'll be a much better player, but not everybody can. So this is just to get those, to kind of help everybody, but to get those people that don't have the time to maybe study and master everything, if you believe you can master a game, because mastering is very difficult to do. But this starts off really simple. There's no checkpoint though, guys, so be very careful at this point. What will happen is, after you've done this for a little while, a bunch of standard guys will start turning up. Did you see him then try and punch me? This is when this gets a little bit bullshitty and a little bit scary. They're going to spawn in the world, and they'll just put them in your path. So as you're dodging away from somebody, you'll dodge off to somewhere else, and there'll be a dude there waiting to punch you. Or waiting to do a diving headbutt like that guy did. And right now, it's so easy to kind of dodge your way into a newly spawned enemy, and then eat an attack, because if you clip on them or you clip on the geometry, you can put yourself in a really bad place. And don't even think about going nuts here and killing everything to get great experience, because you don't. In all the areas where the enemies infinitely spawn, you don't seem to get the right amount of experience for doing them. And I think the game's designers did that intentionally to stop you farming and getting incredible levels. That right there was a mistake on my part and a very valuable lesson. Never ever dodge and then attack, because you will not be able to cancel out of your move, and you will be stuck in recovery, and you will fall the slowest possible falling animation you can think, and then you'll take a hit like I did. The only reason I took a hit then, guys, is because I couldn't cancel out of my combo, and I had to just watch it. It was really frustrating, but it was my mistake. Now I know that, I should never do that again. This is Adam, and this is on very hard. You know what, I just said this is Adam, this could be Eve. I don't know which one this is, actually. I think this is Eve. Anyway, it's a shit fight. And it's easy because, for whatever reason, the beginning of this fight, he doesn't fight back. But once he starts learning, he starts adjusting, he starts fighting back. Couple of things to watch out for here. He has a whole host of up-close combos. He has a whole host of these weird, like, ethereal wings of light that do crazy animations that are awkward to dodge. And then he does projectiles, and he also has a counter. Do you see that dome of brown poo-poo right there? If you attack that dome, he will do this freeze frame, and then he'll reflect the damage back. If you get hit by that, you will never survive it. It does too much damage. So dodge it. And right now he's going to do 4 projectiles from up on his vantage point, and then he's going to teleport away. So you want to dodge around here, and you want to keep your eye on him as best you can, because the game will not help you here, guys. There's no lock-on the harder difficulties. This is the ground pillars. Be careful of the ground pillars. Occasionally one will come in front of you and you'll dodge into it, and you will not get your iframes. That's killed me a few times on other fights. But I recommend you watch what this guy does and you understand what's happening here, because this boss fight gets regurgitated several times in this game. I don't know why. I don't think it's that interesting. I don't think it's visually that great. I don't think any of the animations are all that, worthwhile. It's just a standard fight, but this is kind of the Virgil of the game. This is kind of the Genshin. This is the dude you're going to fight 3 to 4 times, and every single time the animations and the patterns are the same. So it's kind of super fucking lazy, because I just don't think it's very interesting. But it's valuable that you understand what this guy's doing, because all of these moves that you can see right now, he's going to do later on. And if you can understand them from an early point, you can get a good advantage. But my strategy is simple, guys. I wait for him to do an attack, and then I go and try and launch him. Wait for him to do an attack, go in, try and launch him. If you're not too sure on how to launch, you have to press X triangle quickly. Just once, X triangle, like that, and you will do a launch attack. If it launches him, you got lucky. If it didn't, the game decided to fuck you. This fight has weird properties. When he comes out of that sphere, he's completely invincible on the later encounters with him, and he gets these weird properties where you can't launch, you can't deal damage or anything. Right now, it seems a lot better because you can see all the damage numbers happening, but he has these weird pockets of invulnerability, and just you can't do much with him. It's kind of weird, but there goes the boss anyhow. It's not a difficult fight, and it has a checkpoint, guys. There is a checkpoint at the beginning of that fight. So for everybody who's going to be in the comment sections defending the checkpoints in this game, or defending the lack of them, there's no argument, because the game gives you them, and then it decides not to. And there's no reason not to, because if it can give you one for him, why doesn't it give you one for every boss? It makes no sense. That fight is easy. You know the one later on where they regurgitate him, where you have to fight him in 3 phases? That fight's not as easy as this one. And yet this one had a checkpoint. So it's terrible balance. If you want to go from a balance conceit of making it more difficult, you can't. Because that other one should have had a checkpoint. This one shouldn't have. If you want to go with the crazy, lunatic design. Because I think all bosses should have checkpoints. Imagine a boss that you find incredibly difficult, where you have to run through 5 minutes of a level to get back to it every time, then watch an unskippable cutscene, then wait 3 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever it is to listen to the fucker talk while you run around frustrated, and then you fight, and then he one-shots you. Imagine that. Imagine if you had to stand in that room at the end of Vanquish on God Hard mode and watch those double bogies talk at you for a minute before you had to fight them. Do you think anybody would have beat God Hard mode? Yes, because there's lunatics. But not many people would, because it's bullshit. You want to get back in the battle. You want to get back in the game. That's what people want to do. People don't want to sit through text. People don't want to sit through cutscenes, load times. We don't want any of it. Especially at that moment in time, because we're highly irritable, because we've just lost. And we want to get back in and try and win. I don't understand how anybody can look at it and think it's fine. But then they just say, oh, it's just the director. No! The director is accountable. You can't just say, oh, he's crazy. Oh, it's just the director. Fuck that. By its very definition, a director is crazy. I would be surprised if you weren't crazy if you're a director, because at the end of the day, you have to be crazy to get it done. You have to have that self-belief. You have to have those balls to stick by what you believe and make what you want. And then have the publisher come in and ruin it all with microtransactions. But thank you for watching, guys, and you take care now.